Welcome back everyone, hope you're all safe and well. I've got a PowerPoint presentation on here around different types of guidance, part of the skill learning on the A-level. So I'm going to try and go through some slides a bit quicker and try not to waffle as much on this one. So just to start off with, I'm not going to go through these, there is a little do now task, 5 questions recapping stuff that we've looked at over the course. I'd like you to pause the video and attempt these 5 questions. Thank you. So hopefully you had a chance to do those 5 questions. Rather than go through them again, I'm just going to put all of the answers up here so you can go through them and mark your own. So we've got all the different questions. They're the 5 different questions and possible answers, finishing with the different skill continuums and the types of skill that might come on there. So today's topic, as I mentioned, is around guidance, different guidance we give to performers as they're learning skills, and it falls under the skill acquisition content. There are 4 main types of guidance that we give performers and that we need to be aware of. As coaches or teachers, we might use a combination of these types of guidance, but a lot of what we choose is going to depend on the following factors. It might depend upon the athlete's personality. It might depend upon the athlete's motivation, their ability, the type of skill that you are teaching, and how safe the skill is that you are teaching. So these different factors will have a say in which type of guidance we use. As I mentioned, 4 types of guidance. Hopefully you can have a look at that picture and identify the 4 different types of guidance we're going to talk about. The pictures are designed to be clues. So, hopefully you came out with the following answers: visual guidance, verbal guidance, manual guidance, and mechanical guidance. We're going to talk about those different 4 types of guidance in more detail and look at the advantages and disadvantages of those, and when they would be most suited, what type of learner and what type of skill they would be most suited to. The first type of guidance we're going to look at is visual guidance. So, good to be making some notes as you're watching this PowerPoint. Visual guidance is often used when a performer is just starting out in the learning process, so at that cognitive stage of learning. Learners can see the whole action and interpret it for themselves. As it says there, which stage of learning? I've just answered that question. It's the cognitive stage of learning. So when we're just learning the skills, visual guidance and demonstrations is often the best form. Forms of visual guidance include demonstrations, probably the most important and most recognized type. Playback of a video clip, so performance analysis and sports analysis. Observing techniques from images or stills from pictures or videos, and even cones and court markings, putting guides out and key things that we can look for on the floor or to aim for as some sort of visual guidance. For example, you've probably seen in the sports hall, we have those little crosses on the top of the backboards, the basketball, it says aim here, showing where to aim when you're performing a layup. There are many advantages and disadvantages for visual guidance. Again, important to be aware of these so you can evaluate the different types of guidance and say which will be suited for different situations. The first advantage is that it will provide the learner with a mental image, a picture of the skill. They can actually see what is required of them. Secondly, I want to draw attention to key points and give cues. You can say, oh yeah, well that's how that goes, and that's where I need to put my foot there, and that's where that needs to go. Better for less complex skills, where less information needs to be given. If you're trying to copy a very complex skill, there's lots to remember and lots to do. But maybe we can break the skill down and give demonstrations of the different parts. And it encourages that observational learning. When we talked about different theories of learning, this really encourages that observational learning. Some disadvantages: it could demotivate the learner if it's a highly complex skill, as they won't be able to do it and think, oh crikey, how am I ever going to do that? It could overload beginners with information. They could have too much information to look at. And the demonstrations or the guidance need to be accurate and clear. Otherwise, the skill may be learned incorrectly. And finally, static images don't always show how movement develops. So pictures, seeing anything, well, how do they get from picture A to picture B? So pictures aren't always great for people to understand. Second type of guidance we're going to move on to is verbal guidance. This is when a coach explains how to perform a skill or tells a performer something. Terminology and phrases associated to certain skills can be made simple and straightforward in a clear verbal explanation. As with visual guidance, there are some key points with verbal guidance to remember. Don't speak for too long. That's what I'm trying to do with this PowerPoint here, not waffle on for too long. Some movements can't be explained, too complicated, too hard to be explained. So verbal guidance wouldn't be appropriate. Questioning can really help with understanding and confidence. So giving the performers the opportunity to question what you're doing, as well as giving guidance, the opportunity for them to question you so they can gain more information. Some advantages and disadvantages of verbal guidance. Advantages include that tactics can be explained. So when we're talking about the autonomous stage of learning, and they've learnt the basic skills, we can really good for these performers because we can explain the different tactics. We can give technical information and key points and highlight cues, so more detailed information than we can perhaps give through visual guidance. Feedback can be given immediately, and it can be motivational. People giving their talks or giving the guidance can really use that to encourage performers and inspire them and just motivate them to try harder or to try different things. It's therefore better for the associative and autonomous learners. Not great for the cognitive stage of learning where they still haven't learnt the basics needed. Some disadvantages. Players must understand the basic terminology used. It's no good using lots of fancy words if the people that you're working with don't understand those words. There's a danger again of overloading beginners with too much information and too much detail. Learners may lose concentration easily. Hopefully if that's happening in this PowerPoint you can just pause, go away and come back. And it can be a bit boring and a bit confusing. Just having someone talking at you, you can easily switch off. We all learn in different ways. Okay, the next type of guidance is manual guidance. And this involves a coach physically moving a performer into the correct position or supporting them as they perform a skill. And you can see in these 4 pictures we've got examples of manual guidance. We've got some gymnastics and some racket sports in the 4 pictures below. Manual guidance is used when the skills learnt are dangerous or are complex. So coaches or teachers will use a hands-on approach to ensure safety. So really common in something like gymnastics, when they'll support your body if you're doing a particularly difficult task or skill, mainly for safety elements, but also so you feel more secure doing it. And the other picture we can see there is in golf, when they're moving their body into the right position. And we saw in the previous pictures for lots of racket sports or hitting sports, striking and fielding sports, you may move them into a certain body position so they know exactly where it be. It's much easier to physically move someone than try and explain, oh, you need to put your shoulder down there or that shoulder across there, etc. Advantages and disadvantages of manual guidance. First advantage, it can really help to build confidence, particularly on these dangerous activities. It helps to eliminate the danger, the main reason it's used in gymnastics. And it can give an early feel for the whole skill, so that kinesthesis, what it actually feels like to perform the skill, which our body can then remember in the long-term memory store, and we can use that to recall how it should feel. Some disadvantages include that the learner becomes dependent on support, and that interferes with the kinesthesis. So you really want that support of someone being there, and it's hard to move away from that. And another disadvantage is not everyone really wants someone moving them, touching them, positioning them, so the proximity of the coach could be upsetting or off-putting for some performers. Okay, the final type of guidance is mechanical guidance. Mechanical guidance involves the use of equipment to help support the learner while practicing the skill. And in the picture below, we've got an example of floats being used to help swimmers develop the leg kicking action in the water. So mechanical guidance is any piece of equipment or aid that helps to develop a skill. Often takes place when equipment or apparatus is used to assist in the coaching and learning process. We can see a harness being used there in gymnastics. Other examples of mechanical guidance equipment might be stabilizers when someone's learning to ride a bike, a harness in activities such as gymnastics, floats in the swimming example, and possibly a cricket bowling machine or a tennis ball machine can be used when learning those sports. So any piece of equipment or apparatus which is used to recreate a situation. Some advantages and disadvantages for mechanical guidance are as follows. Advantages. The first one is that it promotes confidence and ensures safety for the learner, particularly if there is an element of danger in the skill. For example, in rock climbing, knowing you've got that harness and you're secure would allow you to try something you might not otherwise try. When you're riding a bike, having those stabilizers allows children to learn how to turn the pedals and how that should feel. So it gives you that element of safety and increases your confidence. It can also be used to isolate particular parts of the skill. So we can work specifically on different areas and use a piece of equipment to aid that and develop that. Some disadvantages are, again, as with manual guidance, the learner may become too dependent upon this form of guidance and not want to move away from using it. The feel of the movement with the guidance could actually be a bit different to the actual movement. And the reason for that is that it might restrict your movement or change your movement in some way. Another disadvantage is the learner does not get an opportunity to correct mistakes in the technique because the equipment doesn't allow you to. So again, that kinesthesis can impact on that. And finally, it can restrict your performer. The apparatus that you're using can restrict the performer and prevent them from doing certain things. So we've looked at 4 different types of guidance. Just a very quick task. I would like you to read the statements on the left-hand side, and can you match the types of guidance to the practical examples? So which is visual, which is verbal, which is manual, and which is mechanical. So if you just want to pause this for a second whilst you attempt that. And here are the answers. Hopefully you can see how you got on them. So the first one, a teacher supporting a gymnast when performing a vault, is an example of manual guidance. A coach telling a badminton player how to perform a smash, is an example of verbal guidance. A coach takes the performer's arm through the action of the forehand driving tennis, is another example of manual guidance. A coach performing a seat drop in trampolining to show the learner how to do it, an example of visual. And then again, a coach showing a tennis player a video of someone else demonstrating the backhand shot, another example of visual. And then finally, a golfer using a putting target machine to improve their putting technique. So it's an improving aid as an example of mechanical guidance. Okay, so as well as taking notes on this video and adding them to your folder, the task I would like to carry out is as follows. So this is past paper question. You can see I've got a 4 marker and a 6 marker question. The first question, 4 marks, explain how manual and mechanical guidance might be used in acquiring skills and give a practical example for each type of guidance. Remember, it's really important to have those practical examples. Just looking at some of the work we've done previously, those practical examples, some people are still missing them out. And even if you've got all the information, if you haven't described it or explained it around a practical example, you won't get the marks. You can see below, I've just put, just to remind you what explain means, it's that why, how, and what. And the second question, 6 marker question, Evaluate the use of verbal guidance and visual guidance in the learning of movement skills. And again, I've put below just to remind you what evaluate actually means. So to evaluate is to judge from both sides and reach a conclusion. So we're looking at the advantages and disadvantages. And a couple of sentence starters might be: a strength is, so a strength of verbal guidance is. A weakness of visual guidance is. On the one hand, verbal guidance is good for this. On the other hand, visual guidance is good for that. So make sure you are evaluating the use of those. So once you've made your notes, if you could attempt both of those questions and either email them across to me or put them onto Teams. Actually, I'll probably set it as an assignment on Teams so we can look on there. Any questions? Let me know. Stay safe. Thank you.